The fluorescent glow of Manhattan Ridge Hospital hummed softly above Ava Mercer as she moved through the pediatric wing, the quiet shuffle of her sneakers blending with the distant rhythm of monitors and the low murmur of nurses exchanging updates. She had just finished her third 12-hour shift that week, and exhaustion clung to her bones like a second skin. But none of that mattered the moment she stepped into room 612. Eli lay curled beneath white hospital sheets, his 16-year-old frame thinner than it had ever been. The soft beeping of his heart monitor echoed in the room, steady but fragile, like a reminder that time itself was beginning to run out. Ava walked to his side, brushing a hand across his forehead. "Hey, buddy," she whispered. Eli opened his eyes, managing a crooked smile. "You look terrible, Ava." She let out a tired laugh. "Says the guy who's been living here for months." He chuckled weakly, then winced. The sound was small, almost swallowed by the quiet hum of the air conditioning. Ava's heart tightened. Dr. Rowan entered moments later, his footsteps soft, but his expression far too serious. The room seemed to still around him, the kind of silence that comes before a life-changing truth. "There's a new treatment," he said. "A trial therapy. Patients with Eli's condition have been responding incredibly well." Hope flickered in Ava's chest, bright and sharp. "Then let's do it." Dr. Rowan hesitated. "The cost is $450,000. Insurance won't cover it." The words fell heavy, like stones dropping into deep water. Ava felt the ground tilt beneath her. She made barely enough to cover rent. Every credit card she had was maxed out. She'd sold her parents' old car after they passed. There was nothing left to give, but she still forced a smile for her brother. "We'll figure it out." Eli shook his head, his voice thin. "Ava, let it go. You've done enough." "Not happening," she whispered, gripping his hand. That night, Ava walked back to her tiny studio apartment in Queens, the February wind slicing through her scrubs, rain tapping against the cracked sidewalk. In her room, the old radiator hissed and sputtered, barely warming the space. She sank onto her second-hand couch, covered her face, and cried for the first time in months. But even heartbreak doesn't pay medical bills. The next evening, she pulled on a black catering uniform and headed to the hospital's annual charity gala. The ballroom echoed with the clink of glasses and polite laughter. The air filled with floral perfume and the soft swell of live string music. Guests in designer gowns drifted across the marble floor like they belonged to another world. Ava moved invisibly through them, balancing trays of champagne flutes. "Another whiskey neat," a deep voice said behind her. She turned and froze. Damian Hale stood before her. Dark hair, steel gray eyes, tailored tuxedo. He was the kind of man newspapers liked to call impossibly composed. But up close, he looked sharper, more intense, like someone used to getting exactly what he wanted. And he was looking at her. "Have we met?" he asked. I'm a nurse in pediatrics. You passed by my floor during the hospital tour last month." He studied her, brows narrowing slightly. "You're a nurse, and yet you're serving drinks." Heat crawled up Ava's neck. "Bills don't pay themselves." Before he could reply, a woman floated toward him, a stunning, icy beauty in red silk. Clara Vance. Every magazine in Manhattan knew her face. "There you are, darling," Clara said, slipping her arm through his. "You promised me a dance." Damian's jaw tightened. "Clara, I made it clear, we're done." Clara's smile thinned. "You always say that." Ava stepped away quickly, but not before she felt Damian's eyes follow her. Hours later, as Ava was collecting coats from the check room, Damian appeared again. His presence filled the small space, bringing with it a faint scent of expensive cologne and something sharper beneath. "I need to speak with you," he said. I'm working," she whispered. "If someone sees—" "They won't." His tone brooked no argument. He guided her into an empty conference room. The low hum of the ballroom outside became a distant vibration against the closed door. "I have a proposition," he began. Ava stiffened. Every terrible story she'd ever heard about wealthy men and desperate women flashed through her mind. "I'm not interested in anything inappropriate." His expression shifted, almost offended. "It's not that." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that somehow made him look both powerful and strangely human. "I need a wife," he said. Ava blinked. "I'm sorry. What?" "A temporary wife. 1 year. I'm taking my company public. The board wants stability. No more scandals, no more Clara Vance plastered across tabloids. They want a wife, a respectable, grounded one." What does that have to do with me?" "You're real," he said simply. "You work hard. You don't care about my money, and the press will adore you." Ava shook her head. "Damian, that's insane. I'll pay you $500,000. His voice softened. "I know about your brother. The therapy. Let me help you." Her breath hitched. That number was impossible. Life-changing. Eli-saving. But marrying a stranger? She didn't sleep that night. She sat beside Eli's bed, listening to his quiet breathing, the gentle beep of machines ticking away each second he might not have. By sunrise, she made her choice. When Damian answered her call, she whispered, "I'll do it, but on conditions. Separate bedrooms. This is business, not romance. And the money, every penny, goes straight to the hospital." "Agreed," he said. 2 weeks later, Ava stood in a courthouse wearing a simple cream dress. 5 minutes later, she became Mrs. Ava Hale. The penthouse Damian brought her to afterward took up the entire top floor of the Hale Dominion Hotel. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city like a living painting, the soft hum of Manhattan drifting through the glass. Her suitcase looked painfully small in the grand marble foyer. "Your room is down this hall," Damian said, his voice carefully neutral. "You have your own bathroom and sitting area. If you need anything, Patricia, the head housekeeper, will assist you." And then he was gone, leaving Ava alone in a world that didn't feel real. The first week was quiet. Too quiet. Damian left before sunrise and returned after dark. Their conversations were polite, distant, the kind exchanged by strangers in passing. But every time she visited Eli, his chart showed improvement. That alone kept her steady. One evening, Damian came home early. The penthouse was bathed in golden sunset light, the city humming softly below. "How was your day?" he asked. Ava blinked. It was the first time he'd asked. "I visited Eli. His levels are improving." A genuine softness flickered across Damian's expression. "Good. I'm glad." They shared a quiet moment, unexpected, gentle. "Are you hungry?" he added. "I can cook, somewhat." She followed him into the kitchen, surprised when he began chopping vegetables with practiced ease. "You cook," she teased. "My grandmother insisted," he said. "She believed a man who couldn't feed himself was useless." Ava laughed, a sound she hadn't made in weeks. Damian smiled back, a small, almost shy curve of his lips. That night, over simple pasta, they talked more than they ever had. Ava told him about her dream of becoming a pediatric oncologist. Damian listened intently. "You should still pursue it," he said. "I'll cover your tuition." "Damian, I didn't agree to this for personal benefits." "I know. That's why I'm offering." The next morning, he placed an envelope in front of her at breakfast. Inside was her acceptance letter to Columbia University. "I made some calls," he said softly. "You're smart, Ava. You deserve a chance." Her eyes filled with tears. She hugged him without thinking, and for a heartbeat, he hugged her back. Warm, steady, grounding. 2 weeks later, Ava and Damian attended their first public gala together. Cameras flashed. The orchestra played softly in the distance. Ava felt like an imposter, until Damian leaned down and whispered, "You look incredible." But of course, trouble had to come. Clara Vance swept toward them like a storm in red silk. "I heard you got married," she said to Damian, ignoring Ava entirely. "How charming." Damian's arm tightened around Ava. "Clara, this is my wife." Clara's gaze flicked over Ava, sharp and cold. "A nurse? How philanthropic of you." Ava stayed calm. "I work at the hospital where he donated the children's wing." Clara smirked. "Well, we all know what this is. A business arrangement. Or did she trap you with something more permanent?" Before Ava could respond, Damian pulled her close and kissed her. It wasn't for show. It wasn't polite. It was firm, protective, and startlingly real. "That answer your question?" he murmured to Clara. Clara left in a storm of perfume and rage. On the balcony afterward, Damian looked almost shaken. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that." Ava swallowed. "It's okay." He looked at her, really looked at her. "Ava, this isn't just business anymore. Not for me." Her heart thudded painfully. She had been fighting her feelings for weeks, but fighting no longer seemed possible. "You're not alone," she whispered. From that night forward, everything shifted. Damian started coming home earlier. They cooked together, studied together, walked to Eli's appointments together. He held her hand. She leaned into him. Their laughter returned like a forgotten song. But then the scandal hit. A former executive accused Damian of fraud. The media feasted on the story. Stock prices crashed. Reporters camped outside the hotel, microphones flashing like lightning whenever he stepped outside. Ava stood beside him through every press conference, every meeting, every blow. She held his hand under the table when he shook with anger. She defended him publicly when journalists hurled accusations. And when the truth came out, when the executive was arrested for embezzlement, Damian broke down for the first time. "I wouldn't have survived this without you," he whispered into her hair. That night, something unspoken between them finally blossomed into something real, something undeniable. And then, 6 months after their wedding, Damian invited her onto the penthouse terrace. Soft wind rustled the candle flames. Below them, the city pulsed like a living heartbeat. "Ava," he said, voice trembling slightly, "our contract ends today." She froze. Was he letting her go? "But I don't want this to end," he continued. "Not ever." He dropped to one knee. "Ava Mercer Hale, will you marry me again? For real this time?" Tears blurred the city lights. "Yes," she whispered, 1,000 times. "Yes." 2 months later, they renewed their vows in a small garden surrounded by a handful of people who mattered. Eli walked Ava down the aisle, strong and healthy, the sunlight warming his smile. When Damian saw her, emotion flickered in his eyes, raw, unguarded, full of love. Their vows were simple. Damian promised to stand by her through every storm. Ava promised to choose him every day. When they kissed, it wasn't the end of a contract. It was the beginning of their real life. A life built not on obligation, but on choice. On trust. On love found in the most unexpected place. And as they danced beneath golden evening light, Ava knew she would do it all again. Every tear, every struggle, every impossible decision. Because it brought her here. To him, to them, to forever.